Well, hello there. My name is Dave Bila. I want to welcome you to this new edition of News and Views broadcast by Access Fort County on Public Access TV Channel 99. We are a weekly public opinion program addressing local, state, national topics and issues of interest to the Michigan City and surrounding areas. Opinions are the views and the responsibilities of those making the comments and do not necessarily reflect or represent the views of this program or its TriCo producers. We will adhere to broadcast rules, but absolutely no one's First Amendment right to freedom of speech or freedom of the press will be either muzzled nor denied. Any unauthorized use of the accounts, descriptions, and events of this program without the express written consent of Larry Curley or Schmo is strictly prohibited. We hope to enjoy the program, the discussion, and the participants. Ladies and gentlemen, there's no school for Thursday and Friday for the Michigan City area schools. So Wednesday, Barker Middle School had its fall concert. And they combined the 7th grade musicians and the 7th grade choral group and the 8th grade musicians, the 8th grade choral group. They made a presentation at Barker at 5 o'clock. Well, again, since my son was involved, he sat in with the 8th grader as a high school percussionist. Since he was involved, my grandson, since he was involved, I and my son and my nephew attended and watched the program. For those of you that are unaware of what's going on in the Michigan City Music Department, I see phenomenal growth. For example, the participants in the 7th and 8th grade combined band equals 70 kids. The participants in the choral group, 7th and 8th grade choral group, equals 101 kids. Now, if you understand the value of music in the educational system, you can see that Barker's doing a fantastic job. 6 years ago, I attended a similar concert when my grandson was in 6th grade. There weren't as many people as there were Wednesday. That place was packed, standing room only. You can go on Facebook and use Michigan City High School has a music department page, and you could see how those bleachers were full of people and how the enthusiasm was there with these kids. The 7th graders, again, basically they played the scales. They didn't play music per se, but they're learning finger to eye to hand coordination of playing their instruments. And then the 8th graders then put a little rhythm into the scale portion of music. You can just see how these instructors are teaching these kids the fundamentals of music. And now, if they're going to have, right now they have over 100 kids at the freshman level at Michigan City High School in the music department. With this additional 70 just from Barker alone, that they will not have enough space in a Michigan City High School to accommodate all these kids. I see it wonderful. I see it monumental. I see involvement of the kids. It seems like regardless of economic level, regardless of ethnicity, they all are on the same page musically. So I have to commend the Michigan City area schools, whoever implemented this program 6 years ago, because prior to that, it really wasn't that healthy. Gentlemen?
That's a good problem to have.
It is definitely a good problem to have.
Kudos to the
because
school.
It's going to enhance the educational output at the senior level once these kids are
positive. Anytime you can get kids to take musical instruments, now sure, maybe the violin and the piano are the biggest in terms of contributions to IQ, but reading music is a major contribution to the IQ of students. So this is a huge positive for the Michigan City school system. And hopefully they will be able to keep it up financially. And if they can't, maybe there's going to be donors that will help them out.
Well, they have a program. They have band sponsors, platinum sponsors, Horizon Bank, Mayor Angie, gold sponsors Burnham Brewery, Fiberbond, Michigan City Mural Club, Midwest Eye Consultant, Novak Family, Papa John's, SA Outpost 37, Girlfriend Sales, and Van Aert Manufacturing. They have a
Yeah.
appears to be a
That's
group
great,
of.
and I'm glad you read the sponsors. That was
Oh, hey, credit these individuals. Horizon Bank, Mayor Angie, Burnham Brewery, Fiber Bond, Midwest Eye Consultants, Papa John's Pizzas, and so on. I mean, somebody sees some value out there. And these are the individuals who recognize value. But the program is growing. So if you have a extra shekel or two, contact Barker Middle School Fall Concert. Her name is Stephanie Sabecki, choir director, or Jason Smith, if you want to be a sponsor for the junior high program. I think they look forward to a few extra bucks. Gentlemen, that was my Wednesday.
I should explain the hat. The hat stands for Indiana University, which after many, many years, the last time we really had any kind of a football team like this was Bo McMillan was the coach, and in 1948 he got hired by the Detroit Lions to become the general manager and the coach of a professional football team, and we haven't been any good, except for one 1966 team. We haven't been anywhere near this good.
Did you just jinx it?
No.
Because your best coach got hired to do a pro team.
Yeah.
And you got a really good one now.
Yeah.
Oh, you jinxed it.
Well, they not only got hired.
He's going pro.
Today,
He's going pro.
the pro teams would never allow this. He got hired as the head coach and the general manager, so he could pick the choices out of the draft and all that. So, yeah, he had it. And by the way, the Detroit Lions in that era were one of the best pro teams.
And they're pretty good today.
Yeah.
Well,
but a little bit more in terms of some research that I did. But let me first of all say that tomorrow, which will be Saturday, IU will be playing Michigan State at their homecoming at the IU Stadium. And this is another one of those, not first, but it's one of those that is very unusual. It looks like in the future it won't be so unusual. It will be an absolutely packed stadium, most of it with IU fans.
That's a big stadium.
And they are currently ranked with Ohio State as being the #1 team in the so-called Big 18 and in the Big 10. So they're right up there with.
I was going to follow up with that Michigan State game tomorrow. But to really see the prowess of this new coach, or this coach that Indiana has, we have to see how he can motivate his kids to continue the path of success.
Yeah.
You know, to see how these kids will continue to perform. And if these kids continue to perform, he deserves every cent that IU is going to pay him.
And then some.
And then some.
I'll tell you how he's gotten there. What he does a lot of is he goes through and looks at the kids that came out of high school but didn't get selected by one of the major colleges like Ohio State or someone like that. He finds them. And then because of the way that it is now set up, he can pick those kids and get them into IU. And as a result of that, maybe they have a little bit bigger chip on their shoulder because Ohio State or Michigan didn't pick them. That always helps. And so as a result of that, he's developed some pretty good football teams in the last couple of years. But I also did a little research, and it was so stark that I want to point it out. These are not good numbers. But what I did, I get the Northwest Indiana Business Magazine, and they do a number of comparisons. They talk about the various areas in Northwest Indiana. They're getting pushed very heavily by IU Northwest, which has a division for economic development throughout Northwest Indiana, which includes Lake County all the way through Elkhart County. And then Toll Road also has a commission pushing this. They go all the way from Lake County through Steuben County. So as a result, I am corrected by our English major here.
No, because all the other Samaritans, we get together and we look at LaGrange, Steuben, St. Joe, LaPorte. They always say it's Steuben County.
Steuben.
I always say Steuben.
Now, what I looked at was that the population of LaGrange, Indiana, which by the way is an unincorporated area, but it is a community, 29,907, which is just about the same as Michigan City. So as a result of that, in LaGrange, Indiana, the estimated median household income in 2023 was $117,348. The estimated household income in LaPorte County, now this is LaPorte County, which includes Long Beach, Dunedin Beach, places like this, 59,561. They doubled the income for the median household income.
Oh, yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
median value of an owner-occupied house in Granger, 302,500. In LaPorte County, 130,000, over double what we have here. We have got to figure out ways to get these salaries up and to get people in here with those salaries so that they will challenge other companies to raise their salaries. Okay, I've got Dave and Tony here basically riding along. WRITING.
No, Granger, right?
Yeah.
It is a great community just on the west side of South Bend, right?
Wait,
And-
no, it's east and
Oh,
north.
east, sorry, east
East
of,
and
yeah,
north,
east of
south.
South Bend. And it's been a great community. It's been growing leaps and bounds because people, in my opinion, people who are very well off, not well off, but they're good.
Yeah,
They're upper middle class. They had been looking for a way to move, and people didn't want to move west, which was New Prairie area, which is really booming now. So back 10, 20 years ago, they were all moving east to Granger and still working in South Bend.
yeah.
So you got Notre Dame and a lot of manufacturing places in South Bend, but they were all living out on the edges. Well, they were in the county, but then it's incorporated as Granger. So Granger has a great population, just like ours, but it has quite the salary of very professional people.
Yeah.
And now I used to say they are professionals, but now really they're getting to be more blue collar, like plumbers, electricians, and things like
Which
that,
are-
because they're making a lot of money.
But yes, because it's very hard to find it. Finding a journeyman electrician is very, very difficult, as it's now come up on a number of television stations and interviews that they just don't have those people.
And they were looking for land like a typical 3-bedroom, 2-car garage with a pretty good sized lot. There was recently and still going on in Granger about the ability of this land to hold it, and since it's got so developed, they're looking at running sewer and water out there now. So that's the way it works. People are looking for a better way of life, a bigger piece of property, a nicer school district, and they live adjacent to, and that's why I think Michigan City is going to really struggle with, because people will work in Michigan City and they will live on the edges with a bigger piece of property, with their own septic and their own well, so they're not paying sewer and water bills, and they have a lower tax base, and honestly, they have less administration. So that's where Granger came from, and now they are moving. They're still trying to move east. Some are moving south because of the 31 bypass, because that is some little better ground, but a lot of people are looking west now towards us. So New Carlisle, LaPorte County, anything east of Michigan City is growing.
But one thing that the article did talk about was what Tony was talking about in terms of septic systems and wells. Yes, they have plots of land big enough to do that, but they are now starting to move because of environmental reasons and, quite frankly, just because of convenience, to bringing in water and sewers in those houses that previously were occupied with septic tank and with well.
Well, it makes economic sense now, since the area's got developed and denser. They can provide them sewer and water, and they can provide 100 homes instead of 2 homes.
Yeah.
So now it works, and that's how growth happens. And hopefully, it used to be, and it doesn't happen. I don't know if it's happened in many, many years. Michigan City had a chance with Potawatomi Park, but usually the people around it would start annexing to the cities to get their fire, police, schools, sewer, and water.
Yeah.
But I don't know, other than maybe Fishers and Indianapolis, that just doesn't happen. They either incorporate themselves or the county just gets bigger in itself and they run sewer and water. So there's a strange dichotomy going on with expansion of towns that we used to see 50, 75 years ago, we don't see anymore.
But we are starting to see the growth of building of houses. On the south side, we've got houses that are probably going for $300,000 or more. And on the east side, out in the 6th Ward, we've got housing very close to where the data center is going that are single family, or some of them are as much as three housing units put together. My concern about the 3 housing units put together is, that's fine for older people, that the kids are out of the house. It's also fine probably for married couples, maybe a married couple with 1 child. But once you start to get more children, then you need a place for those kids to play. So if we're gonna build housing that encompasses 3, 4, or 5 housing units in one section, then we're gonna have to build playgrounds to go along with that in order for those kids to have a place to go, to grow up, to play, and just be kids. Otherwise, they will just be kids and get into all kinds of trouble. I know a little something about that. We won't go into that, but
Well, you bring up the point that first we need kids. We saw LaPorte schools, down 63 students, down how many over the few years? Every school
800 and
district
some.
is,
Yeah.
it's not because students are moving because of school choice. There just aren't that many kids. And this, people have been sounding the alarm for 10 years.
this is gonna
And
continue.
it's going to get worse. And we're going to see something change. We're seeing in, I believe, it was Elkhart, somebody is looking to consolidate school districts because they don't have enough kids. And we're going to see that nationwide. It's going to be, and I think, and their prediction was 3 to 5 years. And the one I read, I think it was Elkhart, I'm not sure which one it was, maybe Mishawaka, that they are already planning for that consolidation because they see 3 to 5 years down the road. It is coming, whether we like it. There's no new kids being born. Their districts are getting smaller. They don't need as many school buildings. And maybe because we're not attracting, in my opinion, I think the best home builder you're going to get is a standard house with 2-car garage and a decent yard. So you get families, because families have growth through the years. If you're just attracting people, couples or single people, you're not going to grow. You're slowly withering on the vine, they used to say. And that's not what we should reach for. We should reach for, because that goes in so many directions about this discussion today, is because Michigan City just approved, the redevelopment district just approved a agreement with 500 multi-story housing units. And I laugh because they're saying housing units. So is apartments a bad word now? Because they're apartments.
Well, when I was in the military, we called them connexes. And if you see all these ships floating over from China, and you see all these ships loaded with these metal containers, those are connexes. Do we want that on our lakefront?
They're not going to build, they're not
We
going to
already
take.
got it on our lakefront at Burns Harbor.
Yeah, you want to hear.
I'm saying here in Michigan City, the mindset in Michigan City is just to move in connexes.
Yeah,
no, we want something better.
Yeah, we want homes. And Gary just released a couple stories about they're taking some areas and they're tearing down homes and putting homes back. You know, they're putting 3-bedroom, 2-bedroom, 1-car garage homes. So they're not, I don't think they're building apartments either. And we understand, good, bad, or indifferent, we know what happened at the Boulevard when we had apartments and they were government subsidized. And I was walking in, I thought I heard an article a week ago that the government subsidy people don't know what's happening because they've frozen their government subsidies. Section 8, Section 42, the government is looking at those, and I understand there's some of those aren't being let right now. So if people have, which we talked about last week, if you have a $1,200 a month apartment, I don't know who can afford, that's more than my mortgage. And if you're paying $1,200 a month for your apartment and you're getting $800 or $900 from the government, what happens when that landlord doesn't get the $800 or $900 and they ask you for the $1,200 because you don't want to kick you out?
Well, my understanding of subsidized housing is this subsidy is based on the amount of money you're making. So obviously, you have a job, so you do have a source of income. They're going to top off your...
Yeah, you're right. That was the article, that they are going to say you can't be on government subsidy forever.
Correct.
Section 8, and I don't know if it's Section 42. There's different kinds of subsidies. They're saying that you can't just stay on there forever. We want you to move forward, make more money, and get off the government subsidy. But people have been on them for decades and decades and generations.
Yes. Yeah.
And that's not helping anybody, because again, if we're going to move 500 apartments here at 9th Street and Pine, I hate to tell you, I don't think it's going to turn out very well.
Yeah, I think
20 years from now.
ultimately it will be a problem.
I mean, all you got to do is, and it's the reminder, the stark reminder of what we're in for is the homes that are on the 1 block south of Commerce that are surrounded by a brick wall. That's how bad it was. They
Yeah.
built those homes and they built a brick wall all the way around. Those are nice homes in there. It's really cool. And when I say to build resilience, I think the next phase that we're going to see in communities and buildings and build outs and subdivisions are things that look like that. We already see them in southern Indiana, Tennessee, Kentucky, Florida, Georgia. They're building these communities mostly because the older people aren't here during the winter months, so 6 to 8, 7 months, and they want to leave and they want to know it's secure. So they're building communities with 2-bedroom, 2 cars, and the only thing you have is a man door and a car, and the other 3 sides of your lot are brick walls.
I personally question the direction of the Michigan City Redevelopment Commission in regards to this, this particular program of 500 multi-units. A while back, the Michigan City area schools made a request for metal detectors at the high school. And the Michigan City, prior to this issue coming to light, a request was made by Kevin McGuire. And the Redevelopment Commission kicked the can down the road. It said, well, Baker and Tilly's going to have to do some studying. They're going to have to study this and study that. Basically, in my mind, and I think it came up in conversation here, that the redevelopment forgot about a state law that was established in 2018 allocating money to the schools if they're requested. It appears to me as if the Redevelopment Commission has taken the batteries out of their hearing aids and taking their corneas out of their eyes because they cannot read legislation, state law. They cannot hear the request from the school city to provide them additional funds for the school's future electronic program. And all of their mindset is in this development. 500 multi-story housing units along with a grocery store on what, 7 acres of ground?
Yeah.
Now you think about density. Density, 500 units. 500 units, let's say the occupancy there is maybe what, 4, 2, a mother and a father and 2 kids, maybe?
You do not want 2 kids in that apartment complex.
Say it's
need to be
3 times 500.
Yeah.
Okay, well then 3 times, so 15. His 7 acres of ground, is 7 acres of ground large enough to accommodate, would you say 1,500
people?
plus a car, plus the grocery store?
Oh, they're going to walk.
To where?
I don't know. That's why I read all the articles said this is a livable, walkable, and they don't.
Where's
they
this?
won't need a car.
What
They'll
school?
go to 11th Street.
What school is located close to the Memorial Street property? What school? What elementary school is located close? Tell me. I don't know.
It used to be Neiman.
Well,
No, they're going to go in.
That's gone.
We don't not really have walk-in schools anymore. They all get.
well, I'm just saying there's extenuating circumstances that aren't.
See, you're hitting the nail on the head. They expect to have, the Redevelopment Commission has chosen to potentially fund projects like this and think about not, they haven't funded yet the Michigan City Schools. So they're in there, you can read into their choice that they think that more people will bring in more students to the school and they'll get more money from the government. And so maybe they're not willing to give them the money they have. They think that investing in this is giving money to the school. But I was hoping to read the last line.
Yeah, construction. The agreement makes the developer eligible to apply for additional grants and other financial incentives. An entity has applied for additional grants from the Redevelopment Commission. That's the Michigan City Area Schools, and they kick them down the road. Why are the priorities totally set by the Redevelopment Commission for economic development and ignore the educational prowess of our youth of Michigan City? That's pathetic, people.
Yeah, maybe the first should be the school money and then
That is correct.
the development.
It sounds, because of the people that I'm talking maybe your mindset is limited, and maybe you can understand this concept. Maybe you throw the school city a bone. Maybe you throw them a bone, and maybe I might get off of your back. I don't think so.
Let's think about doing this. If our school city is going to succeed, they need to set objectives in terms of student learning. I was talking to, or had the opportunity to listen to, one of the members of the school board, and he was commenting that one of the big problems they have is in some of the older schools, they haven't been refurbished. I'd go along with that. He was talking about when this data center is built, it looks like they will be able to retire a bond issue, which is good, and then they can use that money to update some of the older school systems. My point is going to be this. That's fine, but you need to have those kids coming out of there with an education. And I think this was a state program, but I think you've got to look at the state of Mississippi and what they did with their education system. 15 years ago, they were ranked 50th in the country out of 50 states. Today, that same ranking system has them at 16th in terms of the way their students are graduating in their ability to do 12th grade math, 12th grade reading, and when you say reading, you also include English. We have got to establish goals for this school system to enable them to be able to graduate the kind of students that we need, that can go into the trades or go to college, have a choice of what you want to do, and be able to make decent salaries when they get through with that. Now, how do you do that? Well, first of all, you got to start with that Mississippi system and what they did. But you also got to start with Saturday classes for those who are below grade level, starting with the 3rd grade, and you got to start with summer school for those who are below grade level at math and reading, well, I combine reading and English. The school system will tell you that, well, one of our problems is the parochial schools, they get better students. That has been there for over 100 years. My gosh, my mother graduated from St. Paul's, which doesn't have a parochial school anymore, in the 8th grade in something like 1918, for crying out loud. The parochial system has been there. That's how my mother and her siblings learned to speak English, because the parochial school system run by, in this case, St. Paul's Church, there were 4 of them, St. Paul's and St. John's were Lutheran. Obviously, St. Stan's was Polish. St. Mary's was the Catholics from Germany and a number of other areas. And they all had the ability to teach kids both languages. In fact, a friend of mine who just passed away, he graduated out of St. Paul's. He was at about the early 50s. He went there in the 40s and the 50s. Every teacher at St. Paul's in that school system was bilingual. They could speak both German and English. We've got to start to look at this as how do we get these kids into that system? And the #1 objective has to be increased rates in terms of the abilities in these kids from the 3rd grade through the 12th grade. And we have got to get the teachers involved, and we have got to make that the #1 objective in our school system.
And
we do that, you'll find that a lot of other good things will happen.
And going back to my opening remarks pertaining to Barker Middle School Band Program, we have 2 middle schools. We got Barker and Krieger. I don't know all the statistics in regards to Krieger, but if you have an additional combined 170 students from the music program plus the other academic kids, you're going to have an influx of movement into Michigan City High School within the next 2 years of maybe a couple thousand kids. Maybe. I might be exaggerating, like I said, but if you have a entity within the school system requesting the Redevelopment Commission to follow state law and provide them revenue, and if you've got this entity that is not doing its job in appropriation of funds that they have available, I think the next step is that this issue should be sent to the Attorney General of the state of Indiana, basically whistleblowing on the Redevelopment Commission for failure to comply with state law that's been on the books since almost since 2018 and on forward. But somebody has to make them aware of what's going on.
If you don't set objectives that students who graduate at the 12th grade will do math and reading at the 12th grade level, all the money in the world is not going to make that difference. You have to have the objectives set, and you have to enforce them. these teachers have got to understand, and maybe more importantly, the administrators have got to understand that academics are the #1 situation.
Well,
Now, it's nice to be social and get along. We need a little of that also. But academics has to be #1.
Yeah, but based on the last 6 years, what I saw in the music department, if the same impetus is at the educational level through our various grades, there's move afoot by the school system to make something happen. I see it right here. Somebody is making something happen. What did Hillary Clinton say? It takes what to build a village?
It takes a village.
It takes a
The
village
to raise a kid.
Yeah, I'm just saying that, Rita Vummett, that you can't put all your eggs in one basket. You've been doing it for 40 years, and what have you accomplished over the last 40 years? Show me.
I want to pick your brains on schools because Bob's right. You have to have a plan. You have to have a vision. You have to be honest about where things are going. And Dave's exactly right. If Michigan City is looking at everyone else, not just locally in the nation, they're losing students because population is decreasing. So your really best choice is to grab students from other areas like Westville, South Central, New Prairie has been doing against everyone around them. But all you gotta do is look at the past. Again, history will predict the future, guaranteed. Michigan City, we have, how many grade schools we have?
I believe 8.
What's that one on Cold Spring?
Joy.
Joy. We have Joy. We have 8. But we used to have a lot more than that. We're sitting in the Central School building. We used to have Garfield. We used to have Neiman.
Jefferson.
So we've lost, what, 30% of them? And if you look at what's happening, you're probably going to lose 30, maybe 40% more. So if you have, the school district has 2 different funds. They have the fund to run the school and they have the fund for the building.
And they can't combine the
You
two.
cannot combine the two. So if you're going to pay off some bonds and you're going to rehab something or build something, which we always seem to want to build something because it's easier to meet all the rules instead of rehabbing something, which I think you should rehab. These buildings are awesome buildings. You cannot build buildings like these anymore.
This was WPA, wasn't it?
Yeah, these are great buildings. So you got to be honest about what schools are going to be open. And we have 2 junior high schools, Barker and Krieger. Are we going to need 2 junior high in the next 5 to 10 years? Maybe not. The school board has to be honest about how its population is going to decrease, because it is going to decrease, whether we like it or not. Whether we get students from adjacent districts or not, it is going to decrease. And then Michigan City High School was built because we were growing so much that we built Michigan City High School, but then we shrunk, and now we have 1 high school. I've said it many times, if Michigan City redevelopment or any part of Michigan City wanted to throw the school a bone, instead of paying, which I believe was 6 years ago, talk about a $30 million city hall, which is probably a $50 million city hall, which is coming. There's going to be a day that they're going to say this again. Maybe we should throw them a bone and buy Elston for $20 million, put $10 million on it, fix it up, and get everything that the campus of Elston affords Michigan City Hall. Would be wonderful. And then that's a $20 million bone that Michigan City would have to either fix schools or build new schools, because they're going to have to consolidate some of these local schools. We're not going to have 8. In 5 years, I think we'd be lucky we had 6. We might get to 5. There's just not enough students. You cannot keep them open and burning money to keep school buildings open.
Do you have the Pines included in your
Yeah, I have the Pines. That's a newer school. I thought that was not a wise move to move to the ground they put the Pines at. That is a nice school, but the piece of ground they got was not very conducive to building. But it's there. We paid for it. It's there. So maybe Pines is the one you keep because it's newer. The Hills was the one over here in the Hills. They rebuilt.
Yeah, Lake Hills.
Lake Hills. They rebuilt Lake Hills. Maybe you keep that. It's a newer building. Marsh, it's getting kind of old. And it's a very fun little park for the kids. He used to live a couple blocks away.
It was built in the 30s.
But Marsh is, sorry.
Knapp, the neighborhood school.
Knapp is getting old. Knapp is a great school, but it's getting old.
They've got a lot of land behind.
They could build a new school and then take the other one down. That would be a perfect spot. They got plenty of ground. So the school board has to look 5, 10, 20 years out. And they're going to have to be very honest about what's going to happen, because school districts are just starting to do that. Not because of the less finance they're receiving, because of the less students that are coming. And you cannot remake 10, 15 years ago where you don't have more population. You're not getting more kids. It'll take at least 20 or 30 years, if at all, to change that momentum.
And it seems to me there should be a cooperative plan between the school city and the entities within the city to combine their mindset to work together for a common goal.
If you were smart, and I know we hate to do this, you would team up with the city of LaPorte or LaPorte district schools to understand we need to work together, because right now we're getting beat by New Prairie, South Central, and Westville. And
Well, so is LaPorte, by the way.
And so is LaPorte. LaPorte's getting beat by them too. So you would, the enemy of my friend's my friend. So team up and maybe work together as a common school district to save yourself and still grow and not bleed money like there's no tomorrow. Because that day is not just coming, that day is here.
Because the common denominator between LaPorte and Michigan City is Johnson Road.
Is growth.
And that area,
That is the growth for
That
the
is
next
correct.
20 to 30 years.
That
I
is
guarantee you, do a time machine, go up 20 to 30 years now, you will see Johnson Road develop. You will see all the growth, just like Granger happened east of South Bend. That is where it's going to happen. It's not going to happen out of Springfield Township. The ground's too wet. It's not going to happen in Porter County. It's not going to happen south of us. It's going to happen between the two. Johnson Road is a corridor. That is going to be the expansion growth for the next 30 years.
so basically we're supporting a combined school district.
That would-
In an indirect way, a combined school
You
district.
would have, I think the board has to at least open up the discussion,
Yeah.
at a minimum.
Yeah.
And you look at your finances and students and population, because LaPorte's seeing some growth south of town. Kingsford Heights is growing like gangbusters. That's why they didn't lose so many students, because all the growth in Kingsford Heights. LaPorte's seeing some growth on the southwest of their town, out in the county. But all the growth, the heavy growth is going to be Johnson Road.
I just read recently LaPorte lost a manufacturing concern to Lebanon, Indiana. They lost about
Oh, I
180.
think they moved them to Europe. 170 people.
Yeah, 170 people. That's economic impact on their residents, and compare their residency versus Michigan City.
Well, Lebanon is the home, basically, in the United States of Subaru. They had a huge facility in Lebanon.
But supposedly this factory that moved out of LaPorte has like 60 units throughout the world.
Yeah.
They've got-
And they were in a very, if you look at it, they're on Factory Street. That building was very old, horrible location for access. Might have been good in the day because it was right next to the rail, but those days are gone. And those people are moving out of town to new open facilities. We said it before. Redevelopment is far more expensive than development. And these companies are looking for new buildings that match the requirements for what they need for whatever robotics or electronics or everything they need in transportation. Transportation's completely changing. I doubt this transportation of rail or interstate will be the transportation at all in the next 20 or 50. You will have robotic cars, robotic trucks, self-driven vehicles, and that transportation is in development ground, not redevelopment ground.
Well, if you can fix them, what those old buildings are good for is storage. But you got to be able to do the internal part to get the machinery in there to be able to handle the storage.
But you look what Phoenix did with the Royal Metals property. They raised the roof
Well,
to
they pretty
accommodate.
much gutted it to the
That's right.
to the iron and started over,
Yeah.
and that's very expensive. Or you could just do like Amazon and Walmart and every other storage place. They just pour a big pad and they have huge beams and they got tilt up and boom, they got wide open spaces, very tall ceilings. Now Michigan City, there's an article on Cleveland, right? They're going to add some more supposed buildings to hold people to come in. I didn't understand that, even though it's not Michigan City's
Those
money.
are spec houses.
There's
Spec buildings.
speculations of buildings, which they already have some that aren't all filled up that were done 8 years ago.
Yeah.
But part of the agreement that they had when they established the initial spec concept, that they may have expansion plans in the future. And so this is a carryover of,
And they've come here. Holiday Group's
Yeah,
doing
and-
these,
yeah.
and that's fine. And they're going to open that road up, the very little quiet road by the car wash that will go all the way up to Meyer. If you look on the map, you see it's already owned by Michigan City. Very smart. I believe Mike Cuss did that. Very smart to open that up. That road can connect right to the back way to Myers. Awesome. So you're not going down Cleveland, and that's a tough intersection there. But that area, I'm glad Holiday is doing it. I don't know what they see that we don't. They did Ameriplex, which I didn't see either. They built that. They just sold that for billions, so maybe they're transferring that money because they have to do an in-kind asset transfer.
Well, yeah, but Tony, supposedly the factories that moved into the spec concept are now proposing additional growth, so they plan
Well, the
on,
ones they built there on Cleveland.
they're filled.
No, they're not filled.
Well, this particular factory, that's the impetus behind this new construction of the roadway going, wants to enlarge.
They
wants to
probably,
get
yeah, they
bigger.
probably want a different building. And there was another building going south of 400 in the county that pulled back, which I understand was because of the environmental regulations that they said they ran into a brick wall and through administration and regulations, and they walked away. We could have had another one, but you know, we're building things for people that we want to come instead of building things for people that will come. And I think that's what this Holiday group has. Somebody who's coming and they know what they want, and they won't fit in the other thing that we built hoping they would come. And this grid for the data center, they took something and they completely gutted it and built it for what they wanted. It must have been worth it to them, I would guess, because it was already zoned. The builders and developers are looking now for the zoning already in place. They don't want to come here and ask for zoning because they know they're going to run into a beehive, and they don't want to waste their time. They want something that's ready in zoning. So the data center came. I know some people didn't like it. It was already zoned for it. It was ready because the community, whether you like it or not, through the zoning plan, the joint zoning ordinance, through the comprehensive plan, said that this is what we want here. And the corporations want to see that, and they want to know that that's something they don't have to fight when they come here. It's ready, it's waiting for us, it's zoned properly, we can build the building we want. And they know what they want.
Not only the zoning, it's also the water and the sewer. You've got to have that.
Yes.
Now, going back to this concept of the 500 cubicles on Fifth and Pine.
Multi-unit.
Multi-unit. Again, in reading this, this news release, economic development agreement with the Chicago-based developer has approved by the city's redevelopment commission more than 500-unit multi-unit storage building along with a grocery store. This was, in my mind, this is phase one. The Economic Development Commission approved for this project to move forward. In phase two, it seems to me there's a gap here between this paragraph and this paragraph. In phase one, this entity, whoever this developer may be, has to obtain financing, in my mind, before phase two could be implemented. Probably. That's the normal procedure of developing something. If this organization had its money in place, this second phase of 300 units of a 9-story structure would already take place.
They would already got permits.
Everything would be done.
And how do we know that? Because the data center people were already a year ahead building it.
Correct.
Before they ever came to anybody. They were ready. They had the money. And my developers that I work with have the money. They're ready to go. This is an afterthought. This is not a forethought that, hey, we're not going to do this. We're going to look for some economic development grants and financial incentives. They are ready to go. They want the boots on the ground. They want shovels in the dirt. They want concrete pouring. They got the people ready. They have got the money. So yes, there's a gap.
And what you're going to see between the gap between phase one and phase two, you're going to see a lot of money by the Michigan City Redevelopment Commission being poured into this concept.
Yeah, you're already down the rabbit hole. You can't get out now.
That's right. That's right. But this is the policy that has been the edict of Michigan City year after year after year after year. And then the bottom line is the project can't obtain financing and falls through. And who ends up with egg on their face, if not the Redevelopment Commission, because they did not follow a proper financial situation. People sell the community a bill of goods, and the community jumps at it because, wow, that's a good deal.
Well, this one they have to jump at it because we've got hundreds of thousands of dollars in this site that's already failed, what, 2 or 3 times?
How many times? Yeah. You're right. We've rebuilt it and built it, rebuilt it.
We've poured money, and I just drove by it twice today. And it's a parking lot with a bunch of infrastructure that's blocked off. They won't even let people park on it. I don't get it. It's public redevelopment property with a parking lot on it that's blocked from parking.
But when the geese fly through from Canada going south, you watch, you'll see flock after flock after flock grazing the grass on this 5th and Pine area.
And Fifth, and
You know?
Fifth, they redid it and did some parking, and I bet you I've seen maybe 3 cars ever parked there. So
During the Depression, Dave forgets about things like this.
I know, Bob. I'm
telling you.
trying to make a point, man.
Just trying to tell you, during the Depression, all those geese, my dad and his buddies would be out there saying, "There's Thanksgiving dinner. There's Christmas dinner."
Well, maybe
what are you
this-
trying to deny those people Thanksgiving and Christmas?
there's no shooting in city limits.
Yeah, maybe
you don't
this.
need that. You just get a
Gravel.
Yeah.
Maybe this letter of intent signed by Tony's Fresh Market base in
Oh,
Chicago
that's my place.
they can go hunting on this property and maybe sell fresh geese at their butcher shop. You know?
So the other thing I found was this, Indiana Business Journal put this out. They dug up all the data center development in Indiana. And you can see, it's Indianapolis and us.
Yeah.
And I just read somewhere that 2 days ago that AEP, which is the
American Electric Power.
the power out, New Carlisle,
Yeah.
is about to do a huge expansion or a partnership with somebody and make themselves larger. Oh no, they were going to get some more money so they could get more high tension power lines because they're going to need a lot of power. Yeah, a lot more power than I think they underestimated the number of data centers that are going on right here. This chart has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 just up in our area.
Well, don't forget you also got a nuclear. Bridgman is the AEP nuclear power plant, but there's also about 30 miles down the road in South Haven, Michigan. South Haven, Michigan, not Indiana. South Haven, Michigan, another nuclear facility that's being restored.
So maybe they're asking for more high tension power lines because they need to carry an excessive amount of power to this place. And I don't think they were ready in the high tension power line, high voltage access.
Well, these 6 data centers, because of its the closeness of Lake Michigan, is an attraction for them to
Oh, sure.
relocate across the northern third of
you
Indiana.
need cooling water.
They're looking at the transportation corridor.
Yeah, right.
And that's, in my mind, and I'm young enough and you guys are wise enough to realize that's not rail or road anymore. That's digital cable.
Yeah.
And it's been implemented slowly but surely.
And we're going to see, and my guess is that we have these high tension power lines and we run all this fiber optic and underground cable and power. At some point, somebody's going to realize, why don't we add fiber optic cable to the same high tension power lines that we're running throughout the country and create larger access for communications through more fiber optic? Because I think we are dangerously close to overrunning any communications transport network we have. I say transportation because we're transporting data, and I think we are way undersized.
Are you talking about the NIPSCO towers?
Yeah, maybe somebody's going to, well, why we're putting power lines on here, why can't we put a bunch of fiber optic too? Because our trunk lines aren't near enough to hold all the data we are trying, every second of the day, are trying to run across the country.
Would there be a static problem?
I'm sure
Separating
they could
electricity
shield
from-
it. I'm sure they could shield it, but right now we're seeing fiber optic run through our county, and they're very small. Imagine if you have very big fiber optic cables that could run, because fiber optic's based on light. That's the beauty of fiber optic. It's not electrical impulse, it's light. So you travel at light speed. And we need as much of that as we can. And if we're putting up high tension power lines, why don't we just add, because you look all around anywhere, you look anywhere. You see a utility pole, you've got cable, phone, electric at a minimum on those.
That travels at 3,600 miles per hour.
Light travel, the data will travel at light speed.
Okay.
That's why we have fiber optic cable. That's why it's so small. It can handle so much data because it travels at fiber optic light. And that's where it's coming. And I think we are grossly undersized across this country for the data that we have now and for the data that we're going to need by far. And that's why the data centers are, you look at that chart, You can see they're lining up on the corridor. That's us. That's Michigan City. Interstates, rail, we are the corridor.
Another issue that materialized years ago pertained to the Michigan City Park Department and certain residents of the community building on.
Oh yeah,
and
it's in your paper.
And somebody brought that in. Who brought that in? Bob?
Bob brought it in.
Well, I can recall it being an issue when Mr. Donahue was an attorney at the Park Department, discussing individuals building onto city property, and it was a topic of discussion.
I believe it's called the Esplanade. It's the beach at Stop 2 that has been dedicated to the city and used for public and only public use for nothing else. No building, if you read the rules in the plat, no buildings can be built on that, period. And I know that because when Michigan City did the lift station a couple doors down, they put it all underground because it's not in a building. It's illegal to put a building on the Esplanade, which we know is the dune, north of the houses, north of Lakeshore Drive, all the way to the lake. And here, Bob brought this in, the Shawmut Park Edition claimants summons by publication to John Doe and Jane Doe, whose whereabouts are unknown. They're just trying to protect themselves legally. That these have been named as third-party defendant in the above litigation of the third-party complaint against you by the owners of the following parcels. So it looks like these
It's
people...
also Sheridan.
Yeah, it looks like these people are pushing back against Michigan City as... I thought it was Michigan City, but I understand Michigan City was suing these people because if you look on Beacon, they have built decks and other things beyond their property line. Whether they knew it or not, they built it beyond into the Esplanade, the protected zone of the beach that was dedicated to Michigan City. And if I remember correctly, that's what you're talking about, Attorney Donahue, they had entered into lease agreements with the Park District to leave those and don't have to tear them down. I don't understand how legally that was possible. I'm not an attorney, but you built into public property. That's like us three saying we want to build an overhang into the right-of-way of the streets we live. That's building into public property. That's not acceptable. I think the only case I know that ever happened was in Malibu, in California, where they were widening the right-of-way and clearing the right-of-way to build wider lanes, and the people who are Malibu, very rich people, sued and went to court, and I believe they said that you guys have been there for 100 years, you're in public right-of-way, but we're not going to make you tear it down.
So these individuals were granted permission by the...
They were leased a rights of use, if I understand correctly, to continue using their...
But when that use changed, then it would revert back.
If they changed, they would revert back and they would have to go back. I think they just didn't want to force them to tear it down. They should have just told them to tear it down. You built into public property, sorry, go away. It's got a coverage in the platted map that says you cannot build on public property. That's why you see the beautiful dune, and Michigan City is granted one of the few people to have that nothing is built there. We have dune and grass and beach. That was protected by the people who platted this. This was platted by private owners. Platted this Shawmut Park and this other subdivision, called the Esplanades, and put in the deed of dedication, you shall not build on this no matter what. So when these people bought it, they knew that. It was on their deed, whether they read it or not, it was on their deed, it was on the plat.
Right?
It was very clear, you do not build in here. Whether they knew they built in there illegally or not, I don't know. They were granted a lease agreement or license to stay there. But it looks like this court case by some attorneys, it says you have been named as a third-party defendant in above referenced litigation by a third-party complainant and certain claims against you and the owners of the following parcels. So I don't know if this is Michigan City suing them or they're suing Michigan City that they got to get their stuff off of that property.
And there's another move afoot between the residents of Long Beach and the Michigan City Sanitary District to create a LLC.
They already owe us $500,000.
Well,
how much of a bill are they running up?
Really, an LLC is being put in place between an organization, there happened to be a judge involved who's one of the spokespeople and another individual, requesting the town of Long Beach to give them approval to initiate a sewer project in Long Beach. And the Long Beach's attorney is opposed to this project moving forward because of there's a lot of intricacies that are going on, but yet the residents within Long Beach want to create their own sanitary sewer district. And one of the comments that the Long Beach's attorney made was, how can we do something like that when we owe them, in other words, when they owe Michigan City like $500,000 in litigation. It just seems a convoluted, a screwed up attempt on behalf of some residents of Long Beach to create their own sewer system.
Well, you think it would behoove Long Beach to create their own sewer treatment area and guide their own path forward by serving their citizens with sewer without having to connect to Michigan City. They can do that. It's a few $1 million, but they can control their own destiny by creating their own packaged sewage treatment plant, probably some outflow down by Hacienda, and they could control their own destiny.
But those people who approached Long Beach wanted to get the approval of the Long Beach Town Board to go along with their idea.
Yeah, there's people that need sewer in Long Beach.
Yeah, but they're on Lakeshore Drive, basically.
No, I
It's basically
believe
it's a Lakeshore Drive concept, yeah.
Lakeshore Drive and the people asking are now south of City Hall want some sewer too.
So they're
But before we close, I want to throw one more little bird out there. When Tony and Dave are talking about Shawmut Park and the other areas that they're referring to, those leases, or whatever they were given to them by the park department, go back about 30 years.
Mm-hmm.
The title to that land was once owned by a doctor by the name of Dr. Warren, famous for the Warren Building. So what they could wind up doing is having to go back to those deeds and find out exactly how much he owned and where he owned it, which would make for a very interesting study. Tony will make a lot of money. He'll be very happy if this goes.
That would be tough.
Well, we're getting down to the last minute. Gentlemen, real quick close. Bob? Tony?
IU plays tomorrow about 2:30. At Indiana University. Turn the game on TV. It should be very interesting.
I believe it's on Peacock, NBC. I believe it was NBC,
Well, sometimes
Peacock.
Peacock streams and they won't put the game on.
Yeah, but I'm looking forward to watching it too. Go IU. Notre Dame. I want to thank everybody for watching. Your input as to improvements or criticism of this program is greatly appreciated. Please contact shows co-producers Bob Pollock, Tony Hendricks, or Dave Bila. You can email Bob at skrpollock@gmail.com, Dave at djbila1@hotmail.com, or Tony at emailagm@yahoo.com. Or you may direct your ideas for any future shows to our one and only Pain in the Neck staff writer, Sarah Bellum. The showing of our program will be Saturday morning at 10 a.m., Monday and Thursday evening at 7 p.m. on Channel 99, and numerous times when there's available dead air to show us gabbing. You may also enjoy watching our program on our YouTube channel, Navigate News and Views. That's 99 Navigate News and Views. I want to thank everybody for watching, and make it a good day.